Okay, so I got my image here. I have all my different layers. I have my background image, background layer, which is blank and which is locked. I have a texture layer. I have some of different guys, different layers cut out with masks, so I can adjust things temporarily and bring them back. We learned about some of the filters and some of the adjustment layers here. Now I can do some layer effects or some more layer adjustments. Layer effects. If I click on my baddie layer here, this bad guy here, I can come up here to this layer adjustment here, and I can make it darken. I can do all these different levels of changes. That gives them some translucency, some layers, some little bit of translucency. That gives different effects. And I may like some of these silhouettes, some of these different wild colors might work depending on what you're doing. For this, I think I'm going to go with a hard light. Okay, so he's still visible, him, still some good form, some color changes, but some of that watercolor in the background is showing through. I think I'm going to change that watercolor a little bit so I can get some of the yellow tones up there. I like those. Need more towards yellow and orange, so I need to make that background a little bit bigger. Command or Control T transforms it. Or if I right click, or actually I can click and drag that out. Command T. If I right click on a transform, it gives me all these different types of transforms. I can do flip things, rotate things, distort things, change the warp and perspective, flip 90 degrees clockwise. I'm just going to keep doing the regular free transform, grab that corner just to make that background a little bit bigger so it fits nicely. And I want some of that yellow and reddish colors on that bad guy to make him seem a little more dark, sinister maybe. Okay, there's some of the stain coming down there. Now I can go back to these guys, my background people. I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna rasterize that image, which commits it to an actual photo within this project, and it's not linked to the other one. I'm gonna try some of these different adjustments. Maybe multiply, color burn. Ooh, that's a nice one. Linear burn, dark, lighten. Soft light, hard light, vivid light, overlay. I sort of like those. It gives them sort of that background feel, like the average Joe part of the background. And I sort of like this color burn too. Maybe lower the opacity a little bit. And instead of the opacity, I can also lower the fill. So you still get sort of that high contrast, but just not quite as full in the image there. Let me try one more. Maybe that vivid light. Lower the fill a little bit. There you go. So you still see them, but they're just not quite as strong. There we are. Maybe a little too strong still. I think I like that color burn a little better. Let me raise the opacity a little bit. So they almost become part of the background, but still sort of stand out a little bit. A little too strong. Vivid light. I think that's a little nicer. There we are. There we are. I like that one. Just gotta find the right balance. I think that's pretty good. Now for my star, John Doe. I think I'm gonna go for that. I think that vivid light will look nice on him too. Maybe lower him down here a little bit. I think I'm gonna get rid of this brightness and contrast sublayer maybe 4. And the brightness and contrast, get rid of that. There you go, I think it's a little better. And he's a little too, the blacks are a little too dark on that for me, I think. So I think I'm going to go back to my filter gallery, or my camera raw gallery. And come back up here. I think I need to expose it a little bit more. A little less contrasty. And those blacks, I'm going to take some of those blacks out so they're not quite so strong. And same with the shadows. Not quite so strong. Highlights maybe a little brighter, a little less, a little brighter. Yeah, that's good. Okay. There, it's a little stronger. Lower the fill a little maybe. And go to that background image and adjust that. Feels a little better. I think I need a little more color here. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. A couple ways I could come down here and duplicate the layer here. Command Z, or Option or Alt click drag and let go, and that duplicates that. That duplicates anything. If I have my move tool here on this layer, Option click drag, I can duplicate that layer. Command Z. There we go. I think that'd be a good area right there. Command T, make them a little bit bigger. T. This guy here. I think this one I need to erase into that a little bit more. E. Let's erase that edge a little bit more. Nice. Maybe bring that pointing finger in a little bit. E, eraser tool. Right there it is. E on my keyboard, or clicking over here is the eraser tool. Remember, white erases, black adds back. Click these arrows, white erases, eraser tool. Not too bad. Make him a little bit smaller. Command T. There we go. So I have the second layer of color here. And I'm just going to position that over here. Just to give a little more color to John Doe. Let me see what color I'm going to use for that. A little more texture and color to his actual face. Soft light, overlay, soft light. Or maybe normal. Ooh, I sort of like some of those textures there. Shrink those down a little. Compress some of those colors. There we go. Let's give him a little bit more texture in that face. There we go. Now I want this to sort of blend across. So I want to go from some texture to no texture at this layer. So I go in that layer, I add just a blank mask. I'm not going to add a gradient. If I click a G, or click and hold and find this gradient tool here. Click here, find the gradient tool from black to white. Different types of gradients. I'm on this first gradient here. If I click right here and let go, then it's going to fade out a little more natural. Maybe I'll fade at an angle. So just give me a little more texture on his face, but it sort of blends it in. Okay, pretty nice. And you can see that blending effect here. I think that camera raw, I think I have the whites just a little bit too high on here. Back here to that exposure, maybe lower the exposure a little bit. Highlights a little bit. Lower that a little bit. Same with the whites. There we go. So, there we go. That's a little nicer. One thing we're doing is trying to make sure whatever we do, we can always change it. All right, so that's why we work with these filters and vector masks and sublayers. Move tool, so I can always change things around. Okay, if I don't like something. Okay, not too bad. And a little too dark, I may want to go in there and adjust some of that. I find a different level of that texture there. It's not quite so strong. I think I'm going to do a sub layer on top of that. Brightness contrast adjustment layer. Okay, come back to my layers panel. I'll do one more of hue and saturation. Love that. I think it's a little too saturated, So if I darken that, lower the saturation of that one layer, it won't be quite as intense. Good. I can go move these guys underneath here too. There we go. Not too bad. Finally, save that. And I want to add one more image. Place embedded. I have my microphone with the transparent background in here. I can place that. Okay. Command T. I want to angle it a little bit here. Make it a lot bigger. Command T. A lot bigger. And Command T or Control T. Angle it a little bit more. There, I think that'd be good here. And I want to have it let it have sort of that translucent effect. So maybe that hard light or vivid light might work nice. This is bothering me how it's interfering with these people. So what I can do is just that. A little bit bigger, Command T. There we are. I don't like how that overlaps there, so I can go to that layer with the microphone, add a layer mask, or vector mask, come down here back to that gradient tool, from white to black, this guy up here, and I can click and drag out and let go so it sort of disappears. Now if I may want it there a little bit, a hint of it, but you can still see the people through it. So there we go. Way up here a little bit, and wherever you let go, it will be totally erased. So I have a little hint of that there. There's my microphone. I'll lower the fill on that a little bit, so it's not quite as strong. Those blacks will loosen up a little bit. So that seems to fit in there a little bit better. That great scene where he's talking on there. And then we'll come back and do some text after this. One more thing. This guy seems a little too sharp, a little too strong now. And I'm going to lower his fill a little bit. So it blends in sort of with everything else the darkness does. Nice. A little bit bigger, a little bit larger. sort of two sides of one coin. Save it. File saved. Alright, and complete this in our next tutorial.